and welcome back to the Gridiron Address. This was a really strange week 3. We're gonna jump right into it. Block field goals out of nowhere, back to back. It was crazy going from watching the end of the Rams Eagles Bucks Jets gets switched over, and there's just another one. Absolutely insane week 3, but we're just gonna jump right into it. Chris, your Pittsburgh Steelers got the win against the Patriots, 21-14. Now, this Patriots team isn't exactly the best. I don't want to call them bad, but they're not really good either. Chris, what are your thoughts on this performance from Pittsburgh?
It was overall a much better defensive performance than I was expecting, which I'm very happy to see, especially after that just disaster class that we had against the Seattle Seahawks. But Kenneth Gainwell offensively having that receiving touchdown was very interesting. DK Metcalf, the fantastic catch. Aaron Rodgers did have the interception, but he passed Brett Favre all time for touchdowns at like 408, I believe. So overall, a good performance by the Steelers against a respectable Patriots team, but still a lot in front of us. But it looked a lot better than Seattle. That's really overall my take on it, and I think it's a better take on the season, hopefully, as we go and play like Baltimore and Cleveland in the future.
And on the offensive side of the ball, we talked about this last week, but this is a really different look from Pittsburgh than we've seen in recent years because they do have Aaron Rodgers who can throw the ball better than a lot of guys they've had in there lately in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era. Chris, are you comfortable with Pittsburgh having to lean on an older Aaron Rodgers to carry their offense, or do you think the lack of a solid run game is going to come back to bite them in the butt eventually?
I think it definitely will come back to bite us, but in the end, we kind of have no real other choice. I mean, that was the last quarterback that we could sign. We have a really good receiver. I think DK Metcalf still has a lot left in the tank, clearly, as we saw today. And we've seen over the past 3 weeks here to start up the year, the run game is incredibly weak, but we didn't have a run game for quite a while, honestly, since we had Le'Veon Bell. Najee Harris was solid for us, but we've not really had a great run game here for quite a while, and we haven't had a great pass game since Ben Roethlisberger, and we've kind of just been playing the same type of football since all those guys retired / left, and we're going to continue to play the same type of football. That's kind of why I'm at the point with it where I think we're going to end up with the same result as we always do, 1 or 2 games above 500, wild card, and probably one and done. But we were joking about that in the group chat here before, but who knows? Maybe it'll come to something.
And Jason, what are your thoughts on this performance for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Man, we've talked about this before. Nobody wins ugly games like Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers, because this was an ugly game. Look, the Pats lost 4 football. They had 4 fumbles. So Pats gave the ball away. I mean, they literally gave the game to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aaron Rodgers had 139 yards through the air. So he is not the AA Ron we know and loved of before. He has to manage the game. He had 2 TDs. He had an interception. So, I mean, he needs to be game manager Aaron and not gunslinger Aaron. So, but that run game was atrocious. The defense kept him into it. But I think it was also the New England Patriots just literally gave them the game. So, but hey, look, this is the NFL. A win is a win. You take it, you roll with it, you go into next week. So a good job by the Pittsburgh Steelers. So shout out to Tomlin and them because, man, they love them ugly games. And you might as well get it out of the way now early in the season. But this Pittsburgh Steelers franchise is in trouble if they don't figure out a quarterback moving forward for their future and a running back moving forward for their future, because it is bleak right now on that roster.
Definitely agree with that.
Without it, and they have they got the Vikings next week. Then they have the Browns and Bengals. That's
that Vikings D. Woo.
Vikings defense. That's going to be brutal.
Ugly London game too. I'm not looking forward to having to wake up at 9:30 a.m. to watch that.
Yeah, that's going to be a rough one. But moving on, my Carolina Panthers. What a game! This was so much fun to watch. That defense stepped up. big time, and the offense did just enough to get the job done. No spectacular performances from Bryce Young or Chuba Hubbard, but they didn't turn the ball over. They took care of the ball phenomenally well. Defense forced 3 turnovers. Chow Smith-Wade had a pick 6. I was thrilled to see that. I'm really happy with how he's been playing through the first 3 weeks of the season. This was the first shutout for the Panthers since 2020 and their first win by 30 or more points since 2014. And that was also against the Atlanta Falcons in week 17. I'm thrilled. Gotta love the 30 burger with cheese. This was fantastic. And Chris, I'll throw this to you first. This was a performance from the Panthers defense that I feel like we've been waiting on. They have a couple really good players, some solid young guys. They just haven't really been able to put it all together and step up. Do you think this is something that they'll be able to build on and see more in week 4, or could this just be a product of the Falcons having a young quarterback in Michael Penix who's bound to struggle in his first handful of career starts?
I'm going to just tell you, man, I really think that says a lot about the ability of the of the Panthers defense, especially. I mean, going against a really, really good Falcons team with great guys like Bijan Robinson, Michael Penix Jr., who's been really good, Drake London, just all those guys the Falcons offense has, and them being able to just stifle that completely for a shutout, that's really, really awesome. And then you go on the road against New England next week. I think there's a good chance if that defense steps up once again. You got New England, and then you got Miami after that, and then a Dallas team that honestly I don't think is very good than a Jets team. You guys could be right in a wild card spot, by the midseason. So I really like that defensive performance. Just overall, I can't say that that's going to be a sustainable thing, but who knows? It's a good sign.
And I'm definitely not expecting shutouts week in and week out. It's just more so the forcing turnovers, limiting big plays. Bijan didn't have a lights out game like I was kind of expecting him to, because the Jaguars absolutely cooked Carolina on the ground in week 1. So I was really worried after that. It's like, got the Falcons in a couple weeks. Robinson is going to go off. And he really didn't. He didn't have a bad game, but he wasn't spectacular or anything. And another thing that really stood out is Bryce Young wasn't really pressured much at all. He took 1 sack down Austin Corbett and another starting offensive lineman. His name's escaping me right now. That's bugging me. But it's Chandler Zavala, Damian Lewis. I think, yeah, it was Damian Lewis who was out. Chandler Zavala, guard from NC State. He came in, did really well. I was a little concerned about that because he's been penalty prone before. He held up good. Cade Mays, versatile backup interior lineman. He was at center. He had a holding penalty outside of that. He played really good as well. Jason, do you think this is a sign of things to come from the Panthers defense? Maybe they're starting to put it together, or could this just be more of a one-off performance?
This is a week 3 win. Take it and run with it. Look, Michael Penix played like Bryce Young. It was just, let's say what it is. I mean, he had a horrendous game, 172 yards, 2 interceptions. They looked horrible. That offense was atrocious. Drake London is missing in action in that offense. You have Bijan Robinson, one of the most dangerous running backs in the NFL, and you did absolutely nothing to get him going. Look, the Panthers defense took advantage of the situation, and they played a flawless game. 30-0 on an NFL team is nothing to laugh at. So as a Panthers fan, I would be very, very excited. And I think this does kind of give you a little confidence moving forward. It's a divisional game. Look, I was wrong. I thought the Atlanta Falcons were going to be the team to beat in the South. And after that performance, I recant that statement. I never said it. So I'm going to backtrack as quick as I can because Michael Penix definitely looked like a rookie out there. And I think that's one of the things that I don't think we realize is that he really didn't start very many games last year. So he technically really is, this is his full rookie season. So abysmal performance by the Falcons, and the Panthers took advantage. Now, look, that Panthers offense still has a lot of work to do. I mean, Young, 16 for 24, 121 yards. He didn't give the game away, which is nice, but he had a touchdown on the ground. But man, that offense has to do something. Get Chuba Hubbard going, man. I mean, you had so many opportunities to kind of get the offense rolling to match the defense, and it really didn't happen. So defensively, I think you guys are going to go into the next week feeling pretty good about yourselves, especially if Carson Wentz starts. But offensively, I think it's time to go back to the drawing board. Something is missing, and right now Bryce Young looks terrible.
Well, he didn't have a great game. There were some missed connections with Tevro McMillan where it was
overthrew him
really
a couple of times. Like
ball, there was one
same.
that was almost like a 35-yard touchdown, but DB was all over him. Super close. I feel like they're just a couple plays away from having a way better offensive performance. So yes, I agree. They definitely have a lot to work on. Hubbard needs to get going more, but I feel like they're right there. They're on the verge of putting it all together. It really feels like. But moving on to some other action from week 3, the Green Bay Packers. This was probably the most shocking game for me. They lost 13-10 to the Joe Flacco-led Cleveland Browns, which still feels incredibly weird to say. Never thought I would say that in my entire life. Through the first 2 weeks, Green Bay looked like world beaters, potential NFC championship contenders. Chris, what does this loss say for the Green Bay Packers?
I'm still going to say it's a fluke. I mean, that was just a very, very ugly game overall, not just for the Packers, but also for the Browns. It was a midfield battle and game-winning field goal to end it. I mean, geez, it was – I mean, it's funny. Like we talk about, we always watch Red Zone. That was not the game they were cutting to, which you're not expecting that to be. You're expecting it to be run up by the Packers. But overall – I think it was just a really bad game. I think that Matt LaFleur and crew will figure it out and they'll recover from there. But, you know, Jordan Love did not look good. Running game looked terrible. Just overall, the Packers looked terrible, and the Browns are a terrible team. They ended up winning the game. So, overall, for Packers fans, for Carson, you know, our guy there, we hope it's a fluke, but not a good showing. Not a good showing for a team that we really think is a contender. So, good win for Cleveland. They're kind of actually back in it in the AFC North, so to speak, which is crazy considering Cincinnati is pretty much in the, you know, one of the worst spots you could possibly be in. Baltimore off to an interesting start with a tough schedule. Pittsburgh is being Pittsburgh, as we talked about before. So who knows? But here, I still overall just will say that I think it's a fluke for the Packers. They'll recover.
And Jason, what does this loss say for Green Bay? Do you agree with Chris that it's a fluke and they're going to bounce back, or is this a sign that there are some serious holes in their team?
Well, you know, I don't know, man. First of all, the Browns look like a bunch of UPS drivers out there, and them jerseys are horrible. Holy cow. That's one of the worst ones I've seen so far this year. But listen, that Browns defense is legit, dude. They're the number 1 defense in the NFL. Myles Garrett's going to end up being the defensive player of the year. He is a monster. So the Green Bay Packers went up against a really, really good defense. And, you know, if you're going to lay an egg, you might as well do it week 3. Jordan Love, that offensive line, they need to go back to the drawing board because they looked atrocious today. The running game was non-existent. But let's give the Browns some credit, guys. They're throwing 157-year-old Joe Flacco out there, and they're riding a number 1 defense, and they're playing good. And I tell you what, the Browns with Quinshawn Judkins, watch out, because that kid is going to run up and down the field. So if you have a good game from your running back, you have a quarterback manager that knows how to manage the game and not like give it away, and you have a unbelievable defense, I'd be worried if I was the rest of that AFC division, because the Browns are going to have something to say and they're going to smack people in the mouth every game. So Green Bay, you got punched in the mouth by a really good team, especially there on defense. Give them credit.
Browns in a really good team. Yes, that defense is phenomenal. That it doesn't make sense in my head. That's going to take a little bit of.
It is weird. It's weird to say it, but I mean the it's there. We saw it. We saw that Browns defense, and the stats are there too. So it's hard to say, but man, I tell you what, Cleveland rocks.
And moving on, I was going to touch on this a little bit later, but since Jorge asked the question, the Bears blew out the Cowboys, and we mentioned them earlier in the show. That Cowboys defense just isn't good. Do we think that this 31-14 win for the Bears is somewhat of a coming out party for Ben Johnson and what he's trying to turn Chicago into, or is Dallas just that bad and we're still questioning the Bears' capabilities? Chris, I'll throw that to you first.
Hey, I mean, that was a fantastic performance by the Chicago Bears, man. I mean, hats off to them. That's the first thing I do want to say. I was actually trying to say that just at some point during the show. I mean, Dallas, even though they lost CeeDee Lamb, they still have a great quarterback with Dak Prescott. They still have George Pickens, who's a great playmaker. But, that defense is really, really, really weathered down. Bland is out. Obviously, they traded Parsons. So that does definitely say something about the Bears' performance, but Caleb Williams looked like what we expected him to be. We talked about that on Sideline Savants, Jason, about how I was really big on starting Caleb Williams this week against that really not great Dallas pass defense. I think overall it says a lot about Ben Johnson's ability to, make a play call. It says a lot about the Bears hopefully advancing, the ability to spread the field. Roma Dunze, Luther Burton having a great game, DJ Moore as well. A really, really overall just good game, regardless of who they were playing, regardless of the Cowboys not being exactly the Cowboys that we know here in 2025. I think it was a great performance by the Bears. So hats off to them and hats off to Ben Johnson on that first win, as a Bear.
And Jason, do you think this win is a coming out party for the Bears, or is Dallas just that bad?
I think it's a little bit of both. Shout out to Ben Johnson. He kind of pulled just about every trick he had to playbook, and his guys performed well. So I think this is going to be a little more dangerous with the Bears moving forward. So now they've showed that they can be a dynamic offense, kind of like a little bit of the Detroit Lions, and that Caleb Williams can handle it. And so can the rest of those guys on that squad. It was also shout out for those Bears defense. That defense was under fire the last two weeks. So to come out and to hold the Dallas Cowboys to literally nothing was great. And what, for the Cowboys, look, I mean, we're going to beat them up because of the Cowboys. They're the punching bag because they're always on TV, everything. But what are you doing running CeeDee Lamb at the running back position? Javonte Williams was having a great game. He is a really good running back. That guy was trucking people. And you put CeeDee Lamb in the backfield like that, and just you knew he was going to get hurt. And then now you're going to have him. He's probably going to be out 2-3 weeks, maybe even more. I don't know how bad that ankle sprain is. We'll hear, if they do an MRI or anything. But I mean, just that's the Cowboys doing Cowboys things. It's the WTF moment. Like, what are you doing? You have a solid run game, and you do that kind of mess, and that threw the whole game off. I think that really killed Dak Prescott. I think that killed the momentum. With everything going on in Dallas right now, they are the dumpster fire of the NFC East right now. And then just it's sad to see because that defense has no kind of pop. I think the Micah Parsons trade really took the air out of that whole locker room, not just because he was traded, but by the way it went down. I think if that trade happens in the offseason and if it was a little more quiet, I think that defense would be performing better. But since it happened when it happened and how it happened, you can see the residuals of it. And I don't think Jerry's going to be able to dig his way out of this one. So, Dallas, terrible performance. But the Bears, I think this is a sign of things to come. I like the way they look. Brand new coach, brand new coaching staff. Game 3 to perform like that. Boom, watch out. The Bears are coming.
And this is an interesting question that's in the comments that I didn't put on there. Do we think Schottenheimer is on the hot seat after a slightly rocky 1-2 start to the season? Yes, they had a close game to the Eagles, who are 3-0. It's really surprising, but I mean, do we think he is? Podcast that he definitely thinks because they lost to the Bears.
The daggone Bears. I don't think so because Jerry Jones historically does not pull the trigger on coaches like that. We've seen Jason Garrett get away with murder. We saw McCarthy get away with murder. I mean, just go all the way back. So no, I don't think he's on the hot seat till maybe next year, and that's only if a big name coach comes out of nowhere where it'd be a plug and play. But no, I think Schottenheimer's fine. It's unfortunately Jerry takes the heat. I mean, the coaching staff, they're going to take some heat, but I think ultimately Jerry Jones is going to take the heat on this season right now.
And Chris, do you think Schottenheimer's on the hot seat after a 1-2 start to his first season?
No, and I just want to say shout out that both Jorge and Reagan are on here on the comments too. I think it's very great that they're husband and wife here both on the comments together. I love it. But no, in all seriousness, I do not believe that Schottenheimer's on the hot seat. I mean, you see how long Jason Garrett lasted there. You see how long Mike McCarthy lasted there. I mean, I'm basically going off of Jason's point here is that in the end, Jerry Jones does not fire a coach unless he absolutely has to. There have been some coaches there. Do I think that all three of those coaches that I just said are bad coaches? McCarthy, yes, but the other two, not so much. Overall, he hangs on to them a little bit too long. You guys can give me your opinion because I'm a Steelers fan, but I think Tomlin versus Garrett is a whole different thing. Schottenheimer will be there at least for 5 years, I would say. Minimal 5 years he'll be there.
I could see that because Jerry is too proud to admit that he made a mistake.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
He will dig in and stand by his decision until it's so glaringly obvious that he has no choice but to fire his head coach.
That's what he got. That's what he got with Garrett.
Without a doubt. And Jorge thinks the seat's warming up a little bit. It's lukewarm right now, and it'll be lukewarm for the next 3 years. And then we're like, okay, year 4, it's got to be a hot seat now. Then into year 5, that's when he gets fired.
But again, he didn't trade Parsons. I will say that. I have no opinion on Schottenheimer either way as a coach or as a person, but he didn't trade Parsons. So
that was all good old Jerry. That move right there, terrible. I'm not going to say I feel bad for Cowboys fans. I thought it was a little funny how it all played out, but not a great football decision at all. Moving on, the Eagles came back against the Rams in a game that they were losing for the vast majority of the time. This was an impressive comeback. Jorge saying, never mind, we're making a good point. Jerry's not wrong, so he's going to stick with him for a while. That is the Jerry Jones way, but Eagles came back. Saquon Barkley was really struggling to get it going all game, so they had to lean on Jalen Hurts as a passer to get it done, and they did, in fact, get it done. And ultimately, it came down to that special teams of the Philadelphia Eagles getting 2 blocked field goals. The last one, Jordan Davis blocked it and returned it for a touchdown, which was insane to see. Do we now that it's been shown that, again, that, hey, Philly can lean on Jalen Hurts as a passer to win football games, even when one of the best running backs, the best running back in the league, can't get it going, do we think the Eagles are the most dangerous team in the NFL? Jason, I will throw that one to you first.
No, not even close. Right now, that was the Rams completely collapsing in the second half. And we had an A.J. Brown sighting. They must have found him on the milk carton. We actually had an A.J. Brown sighting. But no, right now you look at Buffalo. It's crazy to say it, but you look at Indianapolis. So right now, to me, the Eagles are not the most dangerous team. It is really hard to repeat in this league right now in the NFL. They're going to have a rougher time if they don't get that offense figured out. It's like you won the Super Bowl, you had a formula that worked, and then I don't know what you're doing this year. You in this game, you kind of woke up in the second half and you started passing the ball. Look, Jalen Hurts is not Lamar Jackson. He's not Josh Allen. He needs weapons around him to be good. Like, he can get you a yard. He can do the tush push thing. But he's not going to be able to win the game by himself. He needs Saquon Barkley. He needs A.J. Brown. He needs Devontae Smith. So he needs to get Dallas Goedert. He has to pass the ball and distribute the ball. If not, he's going to get hurt and he's going to get stopped. So, and that's what it showed you today. In the first half of that game, Jalen Hurts could not get it done. But then when he started distributing the football, they turn around and win the game. So, but to me, no, they are not the most dangerous team in the league. I think they got a shot, and they have the shot to win in the East. the way things are going in the NFC right now, in the NFC East. But no, there's a lot more dangerous teams out there right now.
And Sean's saying next week's going to be a true test for the Eagles going up against the Bucks, and we're running a little long on time, so we're going to move on to the next question. The Bengals got absolutely destroyed by Minnesota, and that defense did go nuts, Shannon, 48-10, and with Joe Burrow likely to miss all of the regular season, it is not looking good for the Cincinnati Bengals. Dear Lord, Bungles at this point.
They are the Bungles. Just let it go.
Do we think it's safe to say that their season is functionally over because Burrow will miss the rest of the regular season? And with this kind of a performance from the Bengals, it doesn't look great. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, this kind of performance against a backup quarterback we were expecting this to be J.J. McCarthy versus Joe Burrow, but, it was not clearly that. Jake Browning, I always said that he is not a solid backup. We said that again, just citing Sideline Savants. We talked about that earlier this week, but I definitely think it does say something about the Bengals' ability just to perform in the long term, because you're talking about an AFC North that is still really, really competitive. You have a great Baltimore team. You have a Steelers team that's hanging on. You have a Cleveland team that's managed to, knock off an upset against a really good team in the NFC. So I do think that this might be the end of the Bengals for this year. We can have that conversation about how they are as an organization. I'm not even going to get into that. But overall, this is what happens when you don't invest in an offensive line. And, we keep seeing those edits about comparing Andrew Luck to Joe Burrow. We hate to see that, and we hope that's not true, because Joe Burrow is a great quarterback.
Without a doubt. And we'll get it rolling into the primetime preview. Jason, this is a battle of two 0-2 teams in a primetime game. The Giants, by some miracle, find themselves playing on a Sunday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Jason, if I were you, I would be very concerned going into this game, because no one was expecting the Chiefs to be 0-2. Yes, they lost to two good teams in the Chargers and Eagles, but I feel like they're going to be coming out with a vengeance, looking to prove a point in this game, like, hey, we are still one of the best teams in the NFL. Jason, what are your thoughts going into this game, and what do you think the odds are that your Giants are going to be able to pull off an upset tonight?
I am cautiously optimistic. Look, the New York Giants offense woke up last week. Russell Wilson, 450 yards, throwing the ball down the field. Malik Neighbors is that dude. Be prepared. They are going to unleash the boo on Kansas City. So Cam Scatterboo, get ready. I think he is going to have himself a monster game running into that Chiefs secondary. Look, the Chiefs are in trouble right now. They look horrendous on offense. They do not have a clear number one wide receiver. Travis Kelce is getting married. Mr. Swift, he's done. Fantasy relevance, etc. Patrick Mahomes cannot win these games by himself. The Chiefs' defense is the only thing really keeping him in these games, but their offense is atrocious. So I got the Giants winning this game. Look, I think it's going to be doom and gloom here pretty soon for the Kansas City Chiefs, because their run game is terrible. Pacheco is not the answer. No number one wide receiver. Mahomes has literally no one to throw it to. He can only do so much magic, and that's proven the last 2 weeks. Look how bad that offense has looked. So I don't like their chances. I am hoping the Giants defense wakes up. That front four needs to be what they were supposed to be starting week one and wreak some havoc on that offensive line. And they have not done that. That defense has looked atrocious. Burns is the only one getting any sacks right now. You spent, Abdul Carter fell in your lap. Abdul, where you been? You're supposed to be the second coming of LT. And you look like a BLT, side of mayo. So it just terrible. So I need to see some defense. I need to see some smack some guys in the mouth, get a couple of personal fouls. I don't care. I want to see some excitement from that New York Giants defense. Offensively, if we can get the ball down the field, get Malik Neighbors one-on-one, I think we're going to win some of those matchups. And I have the New York Giants winning this game. I think they are just really close to kind of getting over the hump right now. And I think a reeling Kansas City Chiefs team, I think that's what you need to do. You need to hit them hard, hit them fast in this game, take the lead. You have a shot at winning.
And I disagree. I think this is going to be a rough one. I think Kansas City they're going to be playing angry. They're going to get after Russell Wilson. I think this game could get ugly really quick. Like you said, Jason, that front four of the Giants really should be something. I don't know if they're going to get it together yet, and I'm really banking on this Chiefs team playing angry and going out and proving a point. I think they get it done. I think it's going to be by 10-plus points. But to Jorge's question, do we think we're going to see Jackson Dart? That's only if Kansas City is going to be up by like 3 touchdowns halfway through the fourth quarter. I think that's when we might see him. But Chris, what do you have happening for tonight's game?
Yeah, to answer Jorge's question, I agree with you. I think we're only going to see Russ unless there's like an injury or a blowout. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. But my main issue is to kind of cite where, Jason was talking about the Giants' defense is their defense. I mean, despite the fact that Kansas City has lost these 2 games, they have still managed to limit some really, really good playmakers. They limited Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley passing and rushing game. They limited Omari and Hampton in that week 1 game in Brazil. So overall, I think that the Chiefs defense is going to be the reason that they're going to be able to stay in this game. While definitely the Giants' performance against the Cowboys last week, that crazy shootout that we saw, was a positive performance. You're not playing Cowboys defense this week. You're playing a Chiefs defense that is not amazing. It is not what we've seen in the past of Chiefs defenses, but I still think they're going to be able to step up. So I am going to go Kansas City this evening, but I do think that, Cam Scatterbo really has the opportunity to step up. I always liked him, Big 12 guy. I'm a Big 12 guy myself as a WVU guy. So I was rooting for him in the championship and in the college football playoff, but still give me Kansas City. But I think in a closer game than we might think. So overall, everybody's made really good points with that. Jason made really good points, and I hope that the Giants could pull off that upset. That would be really awesome. But I still think that, similar to Aaron's point, that this is a hungry Chiefs team that's not wanting to start that far in the hole, and they're ready. So it's a different defense the Giants are playing. So it's going to be more of a competitive game than we think, though, here on Sunday night.
Definitely could be. And look, I'd like to see the Giants pull off an upset. Jason, I'm rooting for him here. I just don't see it happening, but I hope they prove me wrong. But that'll do it for tonight's show. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to Chris and Jason for coming on yet again. You two are basically co-hosts of the show at this point. Always happy to have you guys on, but running a little later on the show. I'm sure we missed kickoff already, but we're going to head out and hopefully watch a good